Welcome to the Art of Being Happy, Buddha's Guide to Modern Living from Jethavanarama Buddhist Monastery, Sri Lanka. This intriguing talk series brings timeless Buddhist wisdom to help you navigate life's challenges through simple, practical insights. Each episode offers gentle guidance for finding peace and joy in everyday moments. Join us on this journey toward lasting happiness and inner peace. Brought to you by Sanathanavani, the voice eternal.
When you watch a film, do you not experience hatred? You can call it anger, but it's on the verge of hatred. Do you not feel the intensity of emotions that runs through your mind? Do you not feel your veins swelling up and your heart pounding and beating faster? So it's actually having an effect on your body. So the karma is being done, I'm sorry to say. I've sometimes seen, people when there's a fight on the street, right? What do people usually do? Please don't do it, ladies and gentlemen. For your sake, please don't do these things. In case you've ever done it in the past, I appeal to you, never do it again, because you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Where people having a fight, what do people usually do? Sometimes they'll stop a driving car, they'll get out of the car, pull their windows down and start washing it. They'll look at people fighting with each other. There's a sport called wrestling. And later on they said it's not real wrestling, it's just action, right? So they renamed the thing to entertainment, right? You know what they do there, right? They attack people, they hit people in the head, they hit people in the groins, they jump on people and sometimes they twist their arms and it's just havoc, right? Complete anger and hatred. It may just be that actually they're just acting. It may be that they're just acting. In fact, at the end of the fight, they're best friends. They go for a drink. They're best friends. But what about the people who watch it? You take a side. This is what our youth are going through right now. Please, let's do something to save them. Because as they watch it, what they're watching is someone beating another guy, and what do they do? Do they say, how sad that is, let's try and stop it? What do they do? Come on, that's it, beat him up. Break his neck. Break his leg. Isn't that what they say? And if someone swings a chair at someone in the head, there's laughter. They rejoice in it. They applaud. That's a good shot. What are people rejoicing there? Remember Another Pindika, the story I told you right at the beginning? Right? When a monastery was offered to the Buddha, someone stood there and said a sadhu sadhu. And what did he earn? He never offered a penny, ladies and gentlemen. What did he earn? A palace. Now just think about two people having a fight. That could just be an act. But the person watching it, she rejoices in that violence and says sadhu sadhu. Parents, why do you put your children through this? This is child abuse. If you as parents put your children through this is child abuse. We need to become more responsible as adults. Younger years, we didn't have this. We didn't have all this entertainment on TV. Like I said, my great-grandfather, he didn't have a TV. He didn't know what a TV was. But now all of this is just so freely available. That is why last week I told you, we no longer have the time to look after our children because we are far too busy and our children are being ruined and spoiled. Let's not let that happen under our noses. Let's do something about it. I can't change the world, but I can help you save yourselves and your children by showing you the fact. Please don't take anything I say at face value. I try and prove everything to you as best as I can. Because I don't expect any of you to take anything I say so just because I say so. If playing a video game and stabbing someone in the body is not demeritorious, if it is not demeritorious, then offering a Buddha puja is not meritorious either. Then stop doing it. You have to admit. They both can't be true at the same time, right? If one is true, the other also has to be true. So if ever, as parents, I appeal to the parents here. If you as parents are parents to young children, Please protect them. You brought them into this world to do good to them. Perhaps today you don't know where they were before you brought them here. One day I'll explain to you where they were before you brought them here, and how fortunate they are to have been born as human beings. But now that you brought them here, it's your responsibility to look after them. Make use of us. Let us help. Because the Dhamma is here to help. But please protect them. You have the responsibility to do that. So just because it's the easy thing to do, don't let them just go and play any old computer games. So if your children ask, can I play computer games? As a responsible adult, make sure that the games they're playing are not harmful to them. If they ask to watch a movie, then, as a responsible adult, make sure that you know what kind of movie they're watching. Because if it's sex and violence they're watching, then every time that passes through their mind, that is what the mind adjusts to. That's what the mind acquires. And eventually, you're going to end up with a child who is unruly. You won't be able to control them. At one point, it's just going to go past that threshold, and then they will no longer listen to what you say. Because this is just a mind. It's not a child. It's a mind. The mind is like a machine. What you feed it is how the mind works. Anyhow, I digress. Let's come back to the film. I think I care too much. So sometimes I go on a sidetrack. Right, let's come back to the film. When you watch the film, that they show you this violence, this scenes of violence, right? And in those moments, the mind goes into that stage of anger and hate and jealousy and so on. But these are all vexations. So eventually, when what you want is presented to you, meaning the villain is killed, right, and the boy and the girl are reunited, or maybe a child got kidnapped, and somehow they were able to reclaim the child. Right? When that happens, now you can breathe a sigh of relief. See, it's a roller coaster. Ultimately, what the movie has been is when you started, you didn't have any of these problems, did you? All the frustrations and the disappointments and the waiting and the longing for, you didn't have that at the start of the film, right? So the director very carefully, very skillfully, very tactfully took you on a journey of vexation and relief, vexation and relief, vexation and relief. And in the end, he leaves you relieved. In the end, he leaves you relieved unless there's a part 2 coming. Yes. What happens if there's a part 2? Where do they leave you? On a cliffhanger. If there's a part 2, then although the guy was shot dead, or at least you thought he was dead, as everyone walks out of the scene, the camera will focus at this dead man, on the person you think who's dead, and his hand will move. And that will be the end. Now the director knows one thing for certain. When part 2 comes, where will you be? In the cinema hall. Puppets. I used to be the biggest puppet. That is what gives me the right to invite you to be members of that association. See what they do. In the end, if you take the whole picture and analyze what's happened, you paid your hard-earned money at the cinema because you didn't have problems in your life. Or in fact, you had problems, but you wanted to forget your problems. Right? Your mother is poorly, she's ailing, right? Your daughter's failed her exam, your son is in another relationship and you want him to stop. Your husband is beating you up or something, right? And you just want a moment to forget about the problems in life so you can just forget about all that and just take a moment of going to a fairyland. Take a holiday. Just for a couple of hours at least. And for that, you go into the cinema, you pay your hard-earned money and say, excuse me, please can you take my money? And create a world in which I can live so that I forget all the problems in my life. They do this deliberately. In some countries, the countries which I shall not name, but I think is obvious to you, right? In some countries, they do this deliberately so that the authorities, the government can rule their people. So they don't have to deal about poverty, I mean, they do deal with poverty, but they can't be dealing with it at the rate at which people fall into poverty. People have all sorts of problems. They don't have literacy. They live in poverty, right? They don't have the access to education. They don't have access to health, and some of the most basic resources that you would expect to be given to people as basic human rights. Because the government doesn't have the resources to provide all that, what they do is they give people a fantasy world in which they can live. Every month there will be at least 2 or 3 films you can go and watch. And for the duration of the film, you're just in that world. You forget all the problems you have, but after you come out of that, for 1 week you can live in the memory of the film. When you meet your friends, you'll talk about Amitabh Bachchan. Oh, did I just give that out? You'll talk about, Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan and Juhi Chawla and this Chawla and that Chawla and what all the things that happen in the film. You just talk about that amongst your friends, amongst your family. And then, when reality starts to come back to life, you begin to think, oh, hang on a second, I have a debt to pay. Hang on a second, I need to go and find some money to heal my mother's disease. She's got a condition, I need to go and find money for that. And then another film comes along. This is like the betting center. You know how people live at the betting center, right? They go to the betting center, they bet some money, ever hopeful that they're going to win. The first time they win. That's how it happens. The first time you win something, the odds are in your favor. The first time you win, and now you're hopeful that every time you're going to win. So what do? Whatever winning you've got, winning money, you put back into it. I have not seen any man who's become rich going to the betting parlor. Have you? I'll tell you who's rich. The people who run those places. I've got nothing against them, by the way. Long may they prosper, because that is not who I have a problem with. What I have a problem with is when you are used as a scapegoat, when you are used as puppets because of a lack of understanding of the Dhamma. I can explain the same concept. If you ever ridden a roller coaster, it's the same thing that happens. Again, myself, I used to enjoy roller coasters until I realized what the heck was going on. How does one enjoy a roller coaster ride? You stand in queue. Sometimes the queue is how long? Sometimes you have to stand a whole hour in the queue. I mean, when I used to live in England, I went to each and every theme park there was because I so enjoyed going on roller coasters and those rides until I listened to the Dhamma, and then I realized, my God, I was cheated in broad daylight. So you'd stand in the queue. Sometimes you can get a fast track ticket, right? But you stand in queue, right? Because you can hear all the screams and the people coming out of the ride smiling, laughing. And you wonder, well, surely I'm also going to be able to experience that joy and that laughter, right? But little do we realize that laughter comes after something else. You have to experience it to know it. So you stand in the queue, you get into the cart, and then they say, please fasten your seatbelts. Please, if you're pregnant or, if you've got a heart attack, please make sure you get out and inform the member of staff so you don't have to continue on this ride. So they give you all the safety instructions. You fasten the seatbelt, brace yourself. And then what do? They give you the scare of your life. Give me a show of hands. Have you been on a roller coaster? None of you? Ah, that's better. Okay. So what do? Right, they take you up. I went on this roller coaster called the Stealth. It was in, I think, in Alton Towers or Thorpe Park or somewhere in England. So they take you up this ride. It's almost half a kilometer. So they take you up, right? And then they show you God. Or at least they make you think of God at that time. When you're up there, and then they turn you down to see the ground below, now that's the time when you start chanting what? Iti piso bhagava araha. No, it's true. Don't you ask yourself that question at that moment? Why did I sign up for this? Why did I get onto this? And how you hold fast the seat belts and the metal and your cage that has been given for you. You make sure it's all working. Right? It's all been fastened tight. Some people faint because they can't take it. But when you're right up there, fear takes over you. And in that moment, you forget all the problems in your life, don't you? See, that is why it's called entertainment. It's called entertainment because it makes you forget the problems in your life. It's like taking drugs. When you are drugged, I'm not going to say put your hand up if you ever tried it. I don't want to insult anyone. When you are drugged, you forget problems in life. Some people start taking drugs because of that. Because they have debts to pay. They have a broken relationship. And then they suffer because of that. Mother's got cancer. All sorts of problems. Debtors warning you and debtors threatening you to kick you out of your house. At the workplace, they've said in 1 week's time, we're going to kick you out. We're going to give you the sack. Right? So all sorts of problems and people start taking drugs. But when you are drugged, you go into this fantasy world. It just knocks you out, right? So no problem. When you don't know what's going on, it's as if there are no problems in life. So when you are in intense sense of fear, sensuality is the same. We'll talk about it another time. When you're in an intense sense of fear, there's no time to focus on anything else. That fear completely overtakes you. Do you remember that time when you were moving too fast and the car in front of you had braked? You had to apply the emergency brakes? If you ever experienced that, right, where the guy has just stopped in the middle of the road and you're driving up fast and you realize, oh my God, I better slam the brakes, otherwise I'm going to crash into this guy. Do you remember about the exam that you have tomorrow at that time? Do you remember about the bills you have to pay? Or who's going to cook lunch tonight, for tomorrow? You don't remember any of these things because in that moment, fear takes over you. Fear has the ability to do that. It has the ability to make you forget your problems. So people pay for that. So up on the ride, you look down and you think, why did I get on this ride? And then, slowly, they take you back down to earth. And as you get out of the ride, what are you happy about? Honestly answer this question. What are you really happy about? You are happy that you are still in one piece, right? Let's be honest. That is what you are happy about. You are happy that you are safe. You are happy that it was, all that fear you no longer have to endure. You are safe now. So who put yourself in that? And why put yourself in that? In the end, what have you really done? Your hard-earned money. You've gone up to them and you said, here, take this money. Right? And scare the living daylights out of me. Right? And please bring me back to my senses again. And I will pay you for that. This is how you enjoy a thrill ride or a joy ride. It's the relief from vexation again. You didn't experience that joy at the beginning of the ride, did you? Just when you were getting into the cart, did you experience that joy? No. So for that joy, where did it come from? Where did that pleasure come from? No pain, no gain. So you had to put yourself through the pain first to then be relieved of the pain, and now you're back where you started. Because you know what they do as soon as you get off? They turn the cart around and then another bunch of people sit down and they send them back on the same ride. And you walk away saying, idiots. Yeah, well, that's what the last lot talked about you. That's what the last lot said about you. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. I know what this feels like. Yeah, I was such a stupid person. I'm sharing this with you, ladies and gentlemen, because you don't have to put yourselves through this. Even if you go and enjoy your rides, that's okay. But what I'm saying is, let's please understand where pleasure comes from. It is not inherent in a ride. Pleasure can only come where there is pain to be relieved from. So what people do is when they don't have pain, they first inflict pain upon themselves and they find a way to come out of it. Crazy or crazy, which one? That is what a film is. That is what a horror movie is. That is what a ride is. You first inflict pain upon yourselves and then you find a way to relieve yourself from it. Why would you do that? Because pleasure is so overrated. For people who don't understand how to be happy, they try to be happy. And these are some of the things you do trying to be happy. See how wrong we've gone and how far wrong we've gone trying to be happy. And there's always a risk. You know that these rides have not always gone to plan. There have been times where serious accidents have happened. Sometimes you see them on the newspapers. right? The theme park, they've shut for a long period of time while they're doing some investigations as to how some of those things happened. And then they have inquiries and the police get involved and all sorts. But, the police can go and come and do the inquiries, the staff, they can pay the compensation. But for the person who lost their life, what compensation? And the worst part of it is, they died with fear in their minds, not happy. So if you're serious about Nibbana, personally, I would never walk that way again. Not to a right. But hey, that's just my tuppence worth. I would not go that way. Because if ever that goes wrong, and you die with fear. Places where people are born when they die with fear are not very nice places. Whether you believe about the afterlife or not. If you don't believe in the afterlife, still, you died not with a smile on your face, but with the screams. That's a very sad way to go, isn't it? And all for nothing. All for nothing. What you've paid them money for is to insert fear into your minds and then relieve you from it. A problem that you didn't have. This is self-inflicted torture, if you ask me. Self-mortification. Again, what the Buddha said, you mustn't do. See, time and time again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm giving you examples of how the pleasure that you have experienced in your life so far has always been because of relief from vexation. When you cross the street, if there's a vehicle coming up to you, approaching you, right, and somehow run fast and cross the road and you're just saved by the skin of your teeth, if you're just saved like that, do you not feel that relief? Hey, oh my God, I almost got into an accident. That almost crashed into me and I'm so glad I was saved. I feel so lucky to have been saved. You say that about yourself. You say that about other people when you saw it happen to them. That moment was a moment of pleasure. Why pleasure? Because you were just relieved from fear, from pain, from suffering. That is the experience of pleasure. So don't fall into the trap of pleasure. There is a different kind of happiness that we can have. There is a different kind of happiness we can have, so you don't have to opt in for pleasure when there is happiness. Happiness and pleasure are two very different things. So I want to conclude on that for today. Happiness and pleasure are very two different things. They're very different. They're worlds apart. Whatever you have experienced in your life up until now, wherever the case has been that there was pain before the experience of joy, that is a case of pleasure, not happiness. The Buddha's doctrine helps you to attain happiness. This happiness is unconditional happiness. Do you see how the pleasure that you have experienced is always conditional? Meaning, there are conditions that have to go in your favor before you experience that pleasure. If it's your life, it has to be saved. If it's fear, you have to be given freedom from it. If it's pain, you have to be relieved from it. So there are conditions that have to work in your favor. If you ask her, she has to say yes. See, these are the conditions. If it's an exam, you have to get a pass. See, these are the conditions. If it's a test, it has to come back negative. These are the conditions of your happiness. If you apply for the loan, they have to say yes. If you go looking for the property and you set your mind on it, and if you've paid and you've come to an agreement, they have to come back and say, yes, it's yours. See, these are the conditions. Remember the last time you lost something? It could have been anything. A bunch of keys, maybe a shirt, maybe your watch, your wallet, or your phone, right? Remember the last time you lost that? And then you went around the house looking for it? When you found it, how did you feel? What was the feeling when you found something you'd lost? Maybe a child. You were out on the street, right? Maybe doing shopping in the boulevard, and your child ran away. Perhaps some parents here might have that experience. You were in the middle of the busy street, and your child ran away. And then you went around looking for your child. And eventually you found it, or you found her. You found your keys, you found your car, you found your wallet, you found your phone. How did you feel? What's the word? Relieved. If this was what you lost, you can substitute this with anything. If this was what you lost, so keys, child, phone, wallet, whatever, okay? If this was what you lost, Upon finding it, you felt relief. You thought it was this that gave you that pleasure. Then where was the pleasure before you lost it? Question. Where was that pleasure before you lost it? This is your wallet. Okay? You got it with you now. Right? Imagine you have your wallet in your hand. If you have a look at it, it's not going to give you that much pleasure, but lose it and then find it. I mean, you can't lose it yourself and find it, because then, of course, you haven't lost it. But imagine you actually lost it. And you went around the house looking for it, looked in the kitchen, in the fridge, in the washing machine, you looked for it everywhere. And maybe 2 days later, someone came and handed it over to you. And what do you say? My God, you are God. Thank you so much. I've been looking for this so long. Thank you so much. How can I thank you? I can't thank you enough. Because just the sight of it gives you so much pleasure, but that pleasure you didn't experience before you lost it, did you? So is it the wallet then that gave you that pleasure? Is it the pair of keys or the bunch of keys? Is it your child? No. What happened when you lost it? Vexation. In other words, you want something and it's not there. But when you have it with you, you want it and it's there. Whenever you want something and you don't have it, your mind goes into vexation. And it's longing for it, it's waiting for it, it's looking everywhere for it. And then eventually you find it. And what you are relieved from is that build-up of vexation. What you experience as pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, here's the last thing I'm going to say. What you experience as pleasure is not something that the object can give you. Because if it could, it would give it to you all the time you have it in your possession. It doesn't give you because it's not inbuilt. It's not an attribute of this object. You only experience pleasure when you are relieved from pain, when you are relieved from vexation. That's why I say pleasure is so overrated. If you live your life having sought refuge in pleasure, that's a very sorry life to live. There is an alternative. That alternative is the noble bliss that the Buddha speaks of. To attain that bliss, we need to understand the Four Noble Truths.
Thank you for joining us on The Art of Being Happy from Jethavanarama Buddhist Monastery. May today's wisdom bring you peace and joy in your daily life. We'd love to hear how these talks have touched your life. Share your experiences with us on +91 6361 803371. Until next time, may you find happiness in each present moment. Brought to you by Sanathanavani, the Voice Eternal.